Welcome to the My Friend the Friar podcast, and thanks for listening. If you like My Friend the Friar and want to support us, please consider subscribing or following us if you haven't already done so. And if you found us on YouTube, then don't forget to click the notification bell when you subscribe so you'll be notified of new episodes when they release. Thanks again, and God bless. I'm going to hit record, and now I'm recording, and we're live.
We are live.
Oh, do you even have the thing pulled up?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I got it.
We'll fix it in post-production. I don't know what else to say.
We could fix everything in post-production.
I hope so. All right, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me and my friend Chris, not the friar. Chris, you could be a friar. You look like a friar. You fry bacon.
I was going to say, I do a lot of frying in the kitchen. So
yeah,
you could call me the kitchen friar.
The kitchen friar. Father's busy, as always.
Again.
That guy. And so, Chris is back. When did we do this last? Like a year ago?
It was a while back. Because it was when I first... It might not have been a year ago, but it was when I first came back, not soon after I first came back to Signify. And that was June of last year. So it's...
Almost a year.
It's almost a year.
Almost a year.
So it's been a while.
Yeah. So we're gonna be chatting, and I'm gonna use Chris a bunch. I'm going to talk to him every time I can't get Father. I'm just gonna call Chris and be like, "Come on, buddy, let's talk." But today you want to teach us. Well, teaching is. We're going to talk about...
We're going to talk.
We're going to discuss... So you've had this thing on your heart for 100 years.
Yeah, for 101 years.
And you shared it with me, and I was like, that's really interesting. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. What is it, and what triggered it 101 years ago to kind of be on your heart?
So, again, starting back at what we kind of talked about at the beginning of the last podcast, kind of just right now I'm on this journey of kind of where I belong in Christ and where I belong in my life and where I belong everywhere. And so
you belong in my heart. Just
thanks, man. So when I think about that, there's a lot of fear that comes with it, right? Because you fear, man, am I making the right choice? Am I going the right path? Am I talking to the right people? Am I believing the right people? And it's something that we all face in life is fear.
Yeah. Let me get you to move your microphone back a little bit because your booming voice.
I talk too loud. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
So, all right. Is that better?
I hope so.
I hope so.
We'll fix it in post-production.
So, so we deal with fear all the time. And so, especially as men, we don't want to be afraid of anything. So I kind of thought about all the fear and stuff in my life and was kind of running away from it or not wanting to face it and all that. And my favorite story in the Bible is Jesus in the garden. And when Jesus is in the garden, I think it's a perfect picture of how we can relate to the human side of God. Because Jesus in the garden, he's afraid. We know he's afraid because he questions God's will and what God wants him to do. And so he goes to God 3 times and asks him, hey, can we do this any other way? Of course, I'm paraphrasing, but asking, hey, can we do this any other way?
Yeah, he said it just like that.
Yeah,
dude.
Just like that.
Dude.
Bro.
Yeah.
Bruh. So, and God says no. Well, we know that Jesus was scared, but Jesus, he was afraid. He was fearful. He questioned God's will for his life. But when God said no, Jesus, knowing what was going to happen to him, did it anyway. And we all know. Well, most of us know what happened. Yeah. He died, and he rose again. But it wasn't when I realized that it's okay to be afraid. That's what I realized in that moment. It's okay to be afraid. If the Messiah, the Savior of the world, is afraid, it's okay for me to be afraid. And 2, we have to trust God. Jesus questioned God, which we question God all the time in everything we do. but he trusted God, and he did what was right because what God says is right.
Yeah.
Well,
so you started thinking about this recently.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But when did this first show up?
This is where I'm getting at. So I was on a pretty good journey with Christ, in a great place. And the church I went to, First Baptist Church Arlington, talked about that before. They asked me if I would teach Sunday school. And I was like, man, I am not ready to teach Sunday school. Like I'm not the one, right? And then they said teach 7th grade boys in Sunday school. And I'm like, okay, I'm really not ready to teach 7th grade boys. And that fear came in. And that's when I really dove into the story. Well, at that moment, that's when I really dug into that story. But it was at that moment that this whole concept that God gave me, it's the fear of loss. Mm-hmm. That's what this little, whatever you want to call it, that we have on our screens in front of us, it's called fear of loss. Well, I chose to be a Sunday school teacher, and I did that for 6 years. Ended up lasting for 6 years. I chose that because I was going to make the decision not to out of fear of loss. And that's when I started thinking, well, what does that mean? What does fear of loss mean?
Yeah, like what do you got to lose?
What do I have to lose, right? And so I just started pouring into God. What is it that we fear losing as beings, as humans? Well, I asked God, what do we fear losing? And in that, he gave me, there's three things that I think we base our decisions on based off of fear of loss. Fear of losing physical life, spiritual life, and desires. Right?
Yeah.
So those three things, kind of, when you say physical life, right? Well, physical life is death. We fear not doing something because we're afraid that we're going to die if we do it. Right?
Yep.
Spiritual life, we fear not being good enough in Christ, or if I do this, I'm not going to be good enough in Christ, or if I do this, then I'm going to fear losing the connection that I have with Christ. Reputation. That's what it was. I was like, man, I'm missing one.
Yeah. So state them again for me.
Yeah. So it's fear of losing life. And in that, life can be physical life or spiritual life, reputation, or desires. Those are the three that we base. Sorry, I've never taught this before. So
yeah. No, this is just something you've been thinking about.
It's just kind of what has been on my heart. I've never shared this with anybody. So it's just, I put it in this spreadsheet and I thought it was going to be easier than this, but
so we've got right. We just take that step.
Yeah, we just take the step.
We see where God takes us.
See where it goes.
So the fear of life, you're saying it could be physical life. If I do something, I might die. Easy example would be like a martyr who literally is killed because of Jesus.
Yeah.
Things that we, it could be like our reputation, right? What would people think of me?
Yep. Kind of
thing. It could be our desires, things that we want in life. Well, if I do this, then that means I have to give up X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
Right. And like, so those things, the fear of losing those things, is it a concern that we're going to, what is the fear most of the time? Does the fear drive us to Jesus or away from him?
I think most of the time it drives us away from him. And that's based on reputation. Okay. Like, we fear losing what the world sees us as if we get too close to Christ.
Yeah, that's right. So you'd said that once, this thing. So now I'm going to quote you in front of you. I guess I'll paraphrase quote. You said that we fear becoming so Christ-like that the world would reject us.
I have it. It says, we fear becoming too much like Jesus, that the world doesn't see us for who we want them to see us as.
Okay.
When we should be wanting them to see Jesus. So yeah, we fear that they're going to reject us for who we want them to see us as, where we shouldn't be wanting them to see us at all. We should be wanting them to see Jesus through us.
Right. So instead of, or a lot of men, like we'll just talk about men, right? So we want to be these big tough guys.
Yeah, big tough.
Right?
I'm a man.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'll show you. I'm gonna exert my dominance over the situation, and I'm gonna be in charge of this thing.
Yeah.
That's not very Christ-like, is it?
It's nowhere near Christ-like.
Yeah. But if you were to be Christ-like in a situation where somebody has wronged you or somebody has hurt someone you love and all that stuff, right? Well, then you're weak.
Yeah.
And like you're a pushover.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's that. When you told me that quote, it stuck with me.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember it perfectly, but when you told me that you thought that, I was like, man, that's something to really think about. So like, I don't know, you have a story for us, like a moment in your life where like you missed the mark, you weren't Christ-like and you should have been or something, you know what I mean?
A story? I've got plenty of those stories. I mean, I can think back on many a times in my life to where I based my decision about doing the right thing off of fear of losing my reputation. Mm-hmm. And that's with my wife, with my kids, with my friends, with my job, with my parents, with whoever. So many times that I've made the wrong choice based on what I believed that the reputation that I would lose as a man. I can give you just one that I off the top of my head. I used to be afraid to kiss my son in public. Mm-hmm. I used to be afraid to embrace my son, in my arms and kiss my son in public, because that's not what men do. Men don't kiss each other in public.
Unless you live in like Italy or something.
Yeah, unless you live in Italy and it's just like kissing everybody, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was afraid what the world would think if they saw me kissing my son. Mm. And I wasn't so much worried about what my son thought or what Jesus was thinking, And so when I started going through this process of this whole fear of loss thing, one of the things that I thought that I was afraid what the people around me were thinking about if I kissed my son in public. They think that I'm this weak, man. But then when I flipped it and I started seeing it as Jesus would see it, no, I need to be showing my love for my son to my son, no matter who's around. Yeah. Because that's what Jesus did. Jesus showed his love to all of us, no matter who was around, and embraced us and hugged us and kissed us anytime we needed him, no matter who's around. And so I started embracing my son and kissing my son in public and letting him know that I don't care who's watching. I don't care. Yeah. This is about me and you. This is about you knowing that your dad is willing to show you that he loves you no matter who's going on, no matter who's around. Yeah. So, and with these three things, life, reputation, and desires, I think each one of us, there's a different part that we fear more than the other one. Mm-hmm. I just think as men, and we're focusing on reputation because I think men focus more on their reputation, their status in life over a lot of things. If the world doesn't see me as this highly successful, I don't care what my family sees me as. I care what the world sees me as. Yeah. And if I'm not seen as this highly successful, wealthy, well put together man, then I can't make this decision to follow Christ. Yeah. So, and when we look at it, and I hate if I'm jumping around here, but I just went back and I'm looking at life, and I say, physical life, spiritual life, or things we believe are our life. That's one of the biggest things too, is because we have a notion in our head to say, well, she's my life. Mm-hmm. He's my life. My kids are my life. My sports are my life. Yep. My job is my life. Yep. And we get so wrapped up into that thinking that if I make this decision, then she's going to leave me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or-
Yeah. I lose that thing that I build my identity on.
Exactly.
Right.
That's my life. I've built my life based on this as a husband or a boyfriend or a fiance or whatever it is.
I'm an athlete and I blow out my knee. I can't play no more.
My life is over, you
Yeah.
know, and so much of it is based on that we forget that that's not what we should not fear that.
Yeah.
We should fear losing fear of God.
Yeah.
And that will build our desire for him.
I'm glad you brought the fear of the Lord, right? So what does that mean to you, the fear of the Lord? And because that would be an appropriate fear, right?
Absolutely.
Like we should fear losing fear of the Lord,
Yeah.
right? So like what does it mean to you to fear the Lord?
Yeah. So to put it in, and again, we've talked so many times about not understanding the God of Jesus, the God side of Jesus. We can't understand that because we're not God and we never will be. So I stopped trying to figure that out and go on faith that he was God. So I tried to focus on the human side of God, which was Jesus as a human.
Mm-hmm.
And so that fear that God had going back into, or that Jesus had going back to the garden, his fear in his fear of not following God's will is what made him go die on that cross.
Yeah.
It wasn't, don't get me wrong, it was his love, but it was the fear of what was going to happen, not just to him, but to the world if he did not listen to God.
Yeah.
It was that fear that made him choose to go do what he did.
Yeah.
Right. So to me, when I look at it as a human, it's the fear of not providing not, maybe providing is not the right word, not being who I'm supposed to be for God because I'm afraid of losing heaven.
Yeah, so it's like a proper, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah,
I want to say like orientation. It's everything is properly ordered. There you go. That's the word I'm looking for. So fear of the Lord puts God first and God's will first, and what God desires for me first. That being first in my life is proper fear of the Lord. Right?
Yes.
So it's like I should be afraid of the smallest sin, like the smallest offense to God should be
terrifying.
Yeah.
Like I am afraid and it goes back to fear of loss. I'm fear of losing something because I'm not who I'm supposed to be in God.
Yeah.
But do I really fear it enough because I'm not who I'm supposed to be in God?
Yeah,
right?
and there's something interesting with this too. And there's something interesting in this because if you're acting out of fear, I'm going to do this thing because I don't want to get in trouble. You're disordered.
Yes.
If I'm acting out of love, then right, so it's like we'll take Jesus. If I don't do this, Dad's going to be mad at me, right? That's the wrong concept. I don't want to do. I know how bad this is I know how this is gonna end, but I love them all so much, and I love God, and I love myself because he's himself, right?
Yes.
So it's like I love so much that I fear failing that love.
Exactly.
So I'm going to do what needs to be done.
That's it. That's it right there. I fear, I don't know how you just put it, but however you just put it, I fear losing the love of these people that I'm going to go ahead and do it. Because it's everything that God does is out of love, right? He doesn't do anything that's bad or going to hurt us or all he does is love. Love.
Yeah.
But he's not afraid to punish when we need to be punished. But punishment is love. Discipline is love.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like we were talking the other day, God is love.
Yeah.
So even his discipline is love.
100%.
Right.
I discipline my children because I love them. because I want them to make the right decisions in life to not hurt them. So that's why I discipline my children. Did they like it? No, they don't like it because they're like, you're supposed to be my daddy and give me everything I want. Let me do whatever I want. And I can do, no. You don't love me because you spank me. No, I spank you because I do love you.
Yeah.
I grew up without a mom and a dad, and you know, they were there, but they weren't there. They were very, you know, distant and all that. And I tell my kids all the time, when I was 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, and I left the house, all I wanted was somebody to give me a curfew. All I wanted was them to tell me, hey, you need to be home at this time. Well, would I have made it home at that time? No, because I was a hellion kid and I did what I wanted, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't the fact that I was going to make it home on time or that I wanted to make it home on time. It was the fact of knowing that somebody was there and they cared enough about me to want me home at that time. Yeah. And so, yeah, God is love, and he gives us these boundaries, and he tells us, you know, he has this, and I don't want to say it's a list, because he doesn't like, oh, yeah, we have the 10 Commandments, all that good stuff. And yeah, there's lists and stuff like that, but it's not really like that. It's, he shows us through Jesus how we're supposed to live our life. And we fear we fear becoming too much like Christ, that we lose who we want people to see us as. Yeah. Like the closer we get to Christ, the less we are like us. Well, who we are to people is who we've presented ourselves to people our whole lives. Yeah. And so if we all of a sudden come up to those people, and I mean, people we don't know, they're going to know us as how close we are to Christ at that moment when they met us. But the people that we've known for years and years and years, they're going to be like, hey, that's not Chris. That's not John.
Yeah, you've changed.
You've changed. What is it? Yeah. And then when you tell them, well, you tell them, and you're not afraid to tell them at that point, but they're afraid to receive it. Yeah. And they're afraid, like, man, I don't want to change like that. And that fear. I
don't want to be like that. Yeah. You're not fun.
Exactly.
Yeah. I know guys like that too, who've unfortunately, who have had friends and family. Mm-hmm. And I say guys, I know lots of people, men and women and kids, where it's like, no, I realized the light bulb hit or turned on, the lightning struck my brain kind of thing. And I was like, I got to change because this way leads to death. I don't want that. Mm-hmm. This is life. I want this to its fullest, and some people don't want to receive it. And you have to, just like Jesus, you got to be willing to let them walk away. It doesn't mean you stop loving them. Doesn't mean you stop praying for them, but they have to choose to walk with Jesus too.
Yeah. And I think that's so hard for us to do, is to accept that people don't like us. Yeah. Like it's hard for us to...
Especially kids. Yeah. I mean, it's hard for adults too, but especially kids.
It's like hard. Like I am fighting to be somebody that I think I'm supposed to be, and you don't like me for that. That's tough, man. That's like, no, here I am doing what God's telling me to do, and it's supposed to be great and fun, and I'm telling people how much God love them and all this, and they're so scared of it. They're so afraid of receiving it. Because of one of these life, reputation, or desires, they're afraid of losing those things, that they don't want to accept it. Well, if they're not going to accept it, they're not going to accept you, and that's tough. Yeah. And the older we get, I think the easier it gets, because it's like your brain grows up, and I'm in a point in my life to where if you don't make my life better, I'm not gonna let you in it.
Bye. Yeah.
I'm not gonna let you in it. I mean. I could go on and on about my family life, and this is not what this show is about. Maybe we'll get to a show sometime doing that. I would love to, because it's so much of my journey for Christ. It's why I love Christ and I love God as much as I do, is because of my journey. Yeah. But when we're so excited about something, you get a new toy, right? Yeah. And you're like, the excitement of that new toy is like, but sometimes the excitement of that new toy causes you not to play with that new toy, because the heartbreak of breaking that toy you think is more than the joy of playing with that toy. Don't risk it. And so we end up putting it on the shelf. So I think that's how we treat our relationship with God, is like, man, it's brand, it's new, it's shiny, it's great. But I start going and I want to play with this toy. And then when I'm like, oh no, I don't want to break it. So I'm going to put it on the shelf. But the longer we put it on the shelf, the further we get. Well, the further we get away from God, the closer we get to people, because now we're becoming the same person that we were before we started changing. Yeah. Right. And now the people love us, and we're like, ooh, I like that. I like hanging out with these people again. And then here we go. We just keep slipping, right? And we get caught up in that all the time.
Yeah.
And so, but then we realize, and again, I'm going to go back to age because it does have a lot to do with it. As a child, you look at kids, it's kind of a double-edged sword because the older you get, the wiser you get. But the younger you are, you know, there's a reason why God says enter the kingdom of heaven like children, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because they're so free and they're so they just live carefree.
Yeah.
But the moment you hurt them, that hurt stays with them longer than it stays with us.
You know, man, I was thinking about hurt or pain the other day. I have no idea what brought it up, but I was thinking about, because growing up I played football, right? And man, it was, you just want to hit somebody, put on them pads, strap it, and like, oh, you just play a certain song and you're just like on fire and just somebody's gonna get hurt, right? But even that, you don't know what pain is. Yeah. And as you get older, it manifests in so many different ways. So like right now, like if I was having a conversation with, you know, high school me, and high school me is like, let's go, right? Let's go hit somebody. I'd be like, no, dude.
Don't do that.
I'm just going to go sit down and watch it. Oh, you're lame, right? Well, no, I understand what pain is, but it's not just that hitting, you know, in football, those things didn't hurt, because they do. Like sometimes you get the snot knocked out of you.
That's why I quit football.
Yeah. But even that hurt is not the same kind of pain that exists in life.
Not at all.
When you ever experience a real deep pain, right? Like for me, losing my father at a young age, right? Like you learn, when you experience a pain that is like nothing else, you don't want it. Yeah. You don't, not just that, you don't want any kind of pain, because your brain connects those dots and you're like, no, it's okay. I will be fat and happy on the couch versus making myself hurt constantly in the gym, right? Because I don't want the pain anymore. Yeah. But even in that example, it shows our concupiscence, right? That's the word, our desire for sin, the desire for the wrongness. And so some people,
fear of losing desires,
right? Yeah. Some people will want these things and some people won't. So like even my fear of pain, fear of life in this case, right? Is disordered because I should want, for the betterment of myself and my family, to go hurt in the gym. I should not be afraid of pain. Right? But when you experience that deep, deep pain, oh, you don't want anything like
nothing.
That.
I could tell you, and again, I've gotten over it, and I've been able to live my life and become who I am today. But I'll never forget the pain that I felt when my mom called me stupid for the first time. I'm 42 years old. This happened when I was 5.
And you remember?
And I remember it because I never thought that the woman that birthed me, that my mom, would ever call me stupid. Yeah. And I remember the pain that it caused. I'm 42, and that happened when I was 5. And it's not that I dwell on that pain or I'm like, oh, no, but I remember it because that was something that hit me so hard and so deep. And I thought when I was 5 years old, I thought, man, I'm never going to tell my kids they're stupid. Yeah. At 5, I'm thinking that. I'm not thinking of having kids, but I'm just thinking.
Yeah, instead of thinking about dinosaurs, all of a sudden you're going, I ain't going to do that when I'm a grown up.
Exactly. Like it's not going to happen. And so, yeah, and we fear losing the comfort of sitting on our butts and not going through the pain because it's comforting to not have to go through pain, right? Yeah. But the pain is the pain is who we are. Do we have Jesus without pain?
Right. And I was just saying that, like, you cannot, like, I'm pretty sure the two things that Jesus never said was you do you. Yeah. And and now I'm laughing because it's just a funny thing. But now, what was the other thing I was going to say? And it's all going to be all right. Yeah. Or something like that. Right?
Jesus never told you it's all going to be all right. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he said, if you want to be my disciple, you must pick up your cross daily and follow me. So and the cross is an implement of death, torture, pain, right? So he's inviting you into that every day for the rest of your life if you truly want to be his disciple.
If you want to follow him, he doesn't say pick up your cross, he says pick up your cross daily. Yeah. It's not just pick it up and lay it down when you want to. It's pick it up. You know, there's plenty of times when Jesus was walking up the hill to Calvary, to the other two crosses were there. The other two crosses were there.
Yeah.
They were already there. Jesus had to carry his. There's plenty of times where he dropped it. There's plenty of times where he probably felt like dropping it, but he didn't. He picked it up and he carried it. Yeah. And he asked us to do the same. And so when we look at this fear of losing, you know, just take it out of the three things that God, you know, life, reputation, and desire. Take it out of, just take those off the table. Just the fear of losing anything. He just gave me those three categories because I felt that those were the main things in our lives.
Yeah, you can conceptualize them well.
Exactly.
Right?
Those things I think anybody on the planet who's lived a life can conceptualize those things into, I've thought about losing my life, I've thought about losing my reputation, and I've thought about losing desires. You know, so that's why I put it in that. But losing anything, and when we start grasping at straws, I guess to say, of the world, you know, we're just grasping at the straws that the world's throwing to us. We get so caught up in what's next, what straw's coming next, what am I going to find, you know, next to pacify me or to make me happy or to take the pain away or just ease it for a little bit. What is that? That's everything that we fear losing if we turn to Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's who's going to take the pain away. That's who's going to pacify us. That's who's going to sit with us. That's who's going to be the healer, you know?
Yeah.
That's what we should be running to, you know? Yeah. And when we don't run to him, that's when all that stuff that's flying at us hurts the worst. Because I've gone through pain without Jesus and I've gone through pain with Jesus.
Yeah.
And not that the pain didn't hurt when I was going through it with Jesus, but man, it was dang sure easier to go through it with Jesus than it was without him.
Yeah, it's just better.
Yeah, it's just better. And it's like pain is good. Pain is good. We were meant to live in pain. We were meant to lose this world. This world was never promised to us forever. Yeah. In fact, it's promised that it's going to be taken away from us at some point. And so we chase all the worldly things and fear losing all those worldly things because we only have it for such a certain amount of time because it's going to be taken away from us. Oh, I need as much as I can before it's taken away from me. Whereas heaven's forever.
Yeah.
Heaven doesn't end. And I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what it's going to be like, but I know it's going to be happy. I know there's not going to be any tears.
Yeah.
I know that I'm not going to have to worry about paying bills and I'm not going to have to worry about being hurt.
Yeah.
And so we can have a piece of that here on earth.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a freedom.
Freedom's a great word. I love that.
When you are in a good relationship with Jesus, then like there's a freedom. You can be in prison. You can be sick, you can be dying, you can be in pain, whatever. Right? Doesn't matter. Lost your job, lost your house, lost your dog, whatever. But there's a freedom. Oh, and what does it say? I'm bad at quoting scripture. The peace that surpasses understanding or something like that, right? Yeah. There's that peace, that freedom that comes from that. And you know who you are. You're a son of God, right? You're a king.
Yeah, you're a king.
And it's like that in the Catholic Church, they call it the beatific vision, right? To be completely fulfilled by God. Like that's why there's no marriage in heaven because the marriage is a sign of something that you have because you're with God.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so all of the things that we have around us that are signs of something of God are fulfilled. And so, man, whatever that's like, that's got to be so much better than whatever it is we got here. The best you got now can't possibly compare.
It's so much better than what we fear losing here.
Yeah.
We fear losing all this. We're going to lose it no matter what. It's promised that all this that we see here and all this that we've made here and all this that we've collected here, it's promised that's going to be taken away from us.
Yeah.
But it's also promised that if you follow Christ and you live in Christ and let Christ live in you, it's promised that you'll have way more than that for eternity. And yet we spend so much time worrying about what we're going to lose here, rather than even, my papa wasn't a very religious guy, but man, he was the smartest guy. Never made it past the 3rd grade. He's been on his own since he was 12. He lived to be 96. But he used to tell me all the time, a porta-john in heaven is better than a mansion on earth.
That's a good way of saying it.
And I'm like, it's just that wisdom, right? It's that thought of, I will take a crapper in heaven over a mansion on earth.
Yeah. Because
he realized, now he's, old and wise and been through all the hurts you can ever think of, and had to, like I said, grew up from 12 years old on up, built his own business, all that good stuff. And he went through a lot of pain and a lot of strife and a lot of struggle. And it didn't take him until, it took him until he was older to realize, man, yeah, I built a fortune. But the older you get, you start realizing your body's not meant to live a certain amount of time. And you can't always be. He drove a dump truck. He drove a dump truck until he was 78 years old, until he couldn't.
Yeah.
And his body just physically gave out. And he realized, yeah, I'd much rather have a crapper in heaven.
Because everything he built he realizes, I can't take it with me.
I can't take it with me. I'm going to lose it. It is promised. If there's one thing that is promised in this earthly realm, is we are going to die.
Yep.
We are going to lose our life at some point. It's going to happen. We don't know when. We don't know how. We just know it's going to happen. And when you die, the only thing that goes is your soul. That's it.
Yeah. I keep thinking about the fear of loss of desire. Mm-hmm. I think it's something also that a lot of people can connect with, because we also build so much of our lives around the things that we like, right? Or the things that we want.
Absolutely.
And so my daughter, during the Lenten season, right, we do a fast before Easter for the 40 days before Easter. And she loves music. She's in band, orchestra, and choir, right? So she loves music. And so what she gave up for the 40 days was music with lyrics. And because she's always got her headphones in and Spotify on, like that's her existence. And I was like, why would you give that up? Right? Like, how, you tell me how that's supposed to help you grow closer to Jesus and all that stuff, right? Yeah. And she goes, well, I realized, first of all, that most of the things I'm listening to, they're not necessarily bad, but they're not bringing me to Jesus. So I'm gonna let it go for 40 days. And it was impactful for her, because she realized, one, how much she loves music, because she's missing it. So she's desiring something. But she also realized that there could be our desires can very easily be manipulated or perverted into something that's not good.
100, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And, and I think about those kinds of things, like, too, for like my own life, and I'm sure lots of people are the same way. It's our desire. We have an innate desire to be loved. Mm-hmm. We want to be loved. We want to be known. We want to be seen. We want to be understood, and we want to be heard. And so we have this deep, deep longing for this. And most of us look for these in relationships with other people, and most of them are bad relationships, right? Because we're longing for something that truly, even like my wife, it's the deepest relationship I could possibly have, the most intimate, the most vulnerable, we know everything about each other. But she doesn't know me as well as I know myself, because that's just how it works. Yeah. And I don't know myself as well as God knows me. So He knows me. He loves me enough with all of who I am to have died for me. And so I think about like the fear of desires. I think a lot of time those desires they lead us to sin. And that's just something that kind of stuck out to me when you were telling me about this for the first time.
For sure, because everybody goes into the and again, I'm horrible at quoting scriptures and stuff like that, but they say, God tells me He'll give me the desires of my heart. Mm-hmm. Well, He does. He does tell you that. He promises you, I'll give you the desires of your heart. But people get that twisted. It's, well, if you desire the relationship with Christ and the relationship with God, then your desires in your heart are going to be right and good and holy and true. Those are the desires that he's talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Not our earthly desires. And that's why I put on this spreadsheet under desires, relationships. Because I think that is the most desired thing that we want on this planet is relationships. And so many of those relationships are what you said. They point us towards the wrong thing. Because we seek in those people here on earth, we seek what God is willing to give us and wants to give us. We seek that in earthly people. We seek that in people here on earth. They're never going to be able to fulfill that. I know we use the word void or whole or whatever you want to call it, that only God can fulfill. Well, when we start looking at these relationships, well, what does the devil know about us? That we desire relationships.
Yeah.
And so what does he do? He throws all these I have a child that is not born of my wife.
Mm-hmm.
She's my wife's stepchild. And it was because at the time my wife and I were separated, and that's a whole nother story, but you know this story, the whole other story. My wife and I were separated. Well, I could not get to my wife. I physically could not have the relationship that I wanted with my wife, but I still desired that intimacy, that relationship. So what happened is I fell to the desires of that, and I went and had an affair and had a child.
Yeah.
So yes, the desires that we long for, and right underneath it is material possessions, because I think those two things are what we desire for the most.
Yeah.
The biggest house, the flashiest car, the most. And I'm not saying everybody, because not everybody wants material things, but they do want relationship.
Yeah.
You can go to the person that says, I want to be alone. I don't want anybody around me. You can go to that person and they can lie to you to your face and say, I don't want you here, but they really want you there because we're built for relationship. We're built for relationship.
Yeah.
Whether you believe in Christ or not, that's up to you. But he built you to be in fellowship and to be in relationship with people. And it's not just the intimate relationship. It's not just the intimacy that we have. We use our wives because, they're the closest person. I will choose my wife over anybody on the planet 100 times a day and double that on Sunday, right?
Yep.
Because that's who God gave me to share in that relationship.
Yeah.
But it's not just those relationships that we desire. I desire a relationship with you, John, because I love the relationship that we have. I desire the conversations that we have.
Yep.
Well, you make my life better. And I allow you into my life because the conversations we have make my life better.
Yeah.
What was that?
Spooky sounds in the distance.
The ceiling's coming down. Anyway, that's the devil trying to get us off track. That's what that is.
Yeah.
But I desire those conversations, and I desire having a relationship with you because it makes my life better.
Yeah.
Well, who knows that? The devil knows that. So what does he do? He puts people in my path that aren't good for me, that don't have the same want for me to be better. And sometimes I go into those relationships, and sometimes I fall, and sometimes I go back into that.
Yeah.
Because we desire. For some reason, we're born sinful. Yep. We know the reason, right? Because we're sinful people.
Yeah.
We learn how to manipulate when we're babies.
Yep.
And I learned that because I have babies.
Yeah.
They're not babies anymore.
You watched how quickly you were manipulated, right?
100%, because my babies cried differently whenever they needed a diaper change. And they cried differently whenever they knew that they just wanted to be held or they were hungry. Well, if they just wanted to be held and they cried their I want to be held cry, well, we figured that out. Oh, you're crying just because you want to be held, so we're going to let them lay in there.
Yeah.
Well, then they realized, if I cry like I'm hungry, they're going to come get me.
Yeah.
That's sinful nature.
Those stinking babies.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we've all done it because we've all been babies.
Yeah.
Because that's how we're born. We're born to manipulate. We're born to we're born in selfishness.
Yeah.
I'm going to cry this way. They don't even know what they're doing. They have no idea. They just know that if I make this noise, they're going to come running. If I make this noise, they're just going to leave me in here to cry it out and be a baby, right?
Yeah.
And so that's innate in us. And because we're born that way, we naturally run away from the people that don't give us everything that we want.
Mm-hmm.
We run to the people that flock over us and
pay attention to me.
Pay attention to me.
Yeah.
And if you don't, even though those people that are probably making you mad are the best for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So all those things kind of remind me too, like Father Stephen and I have talked about how because of our disorder, we approach God the way that our worldly relationships have informed us on how to act and think and all that stuff, instead of the other way around, which is the way it should be. So I should approach my friendships the way Jesus is my friend, right? So it should start with God, come to me, and go out to the world around us. I should approach my marriage the way that God approaches me, right? I should approach my role as father the way God approaches me. And so as you're saying, we run away from the people who don't pay attention to us. Like, how many times have we ever been in our lives where we want something, may have even thrown a prayer out to the good Lord, hey, I need this thing, I want this thing, and I hear nothing back, and so I'm like, all right, I'm done with you, right? I'm going to run from you, or this thing is happening in my life, I'm going to avoid it, because even though God's maybe trying to wrangle us back in, but no, I'm going to avoid this, I'm going to avoid you, I'm going to avoid going to church, I'm going to avoid what, because I don't want to hear what you're saying, I'd rather go do this other thing.
Yeah.
Right?
And we feel that other thing is going to give us what we truly desire. We feel that going over there is going to fill the hurt or the void or whatever it is, or give us that fleeting moment of pleasure.
Yeah.
That it's all going to be okay. No, it's not. You know, walking through the pain, going back to the pain of it, walking through the pain makes, I think of Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali said he never knew what true victory was until he tasted defeat. The guy won all the time. He's just winning. And he thought he knew what winning was. He lost and he was like, oh, that's not right. That don't feel good. I don't like it. But that's what made him truly understand what victory was, what winning was. And he's like, I want to try harder to win because I don't want to taste defeat. Most of us are opposite. Like we run to the stuff that hurts us and makes us worse because we fear losing. I just go back to the fear of loss. We fear losing what those people are going to think about us if we say, hey, go sit on the sidelines. I'm going to somebody that's better for me. You know? And again, I rely solely on my relationships in my life and what God has taught me and everything. I put my mom on the sidelines because she was not making my life better. I would be in depression and anxiety thinking about, man, I just want my mom to love me, how a mom's supposed to love me. And I just let it control my actions and my work. And I finally got to the point where I'm like, I'm going to stop running towards that, and I'm just going to put it on the sidelines. So I put my mom on the sidelines, and I told her, I love you, I'm praying for you, I care about you, but I can no longer allow you to dictate my life and hurt my family in the process. Yeah. I can't do it.
Yeah. And man, that's a scary thing.
It is.
Because it's your mom.
It's my mom.
You know? Yeah.
But I had to. Because it was not making my life better. But I feared losing that relationship with my mom. I feared losing that relationship and losing the desire of my mom's love. I feared losing that more than I cared about my own health, my own physical, mental, and my kids. If I don't take care of me, who's going to take care of my kids?
Yeah.
You know, if I don't take care of me, who's going to pay the bills? Yeah. Well, I was trying to fix a relationship that the person on the other side of that relationship don't want to fix. Yeah. if I can't make them want to fix that relationship, but I feared losing that so much that I did what was wrong. I did what was hurting me. I did what was taking me away from what was important.
Yeah.
And so I keep grasping at desires is something that everybody has. And that desire for I'm not supposed to do that. It's so raging inside of us that we can't control it.
Even Paul wrote about it.
Yeah.
He said, I have to train constantly so that because I would fear to be disqualified at the end of the race because, and what does he say? He's like I think he's the one who says the whole, my heart is willing, but the flesh is weak or something like that, right?
Yes.
Like I want to do good, but I continue to do bad.
And that's it. It's what is it? What is your fear? What is your fear that's keeping you from going to Christ? What is it? And I believe it falls into one of the desires, reputation, or life. It falls into one of those categories.
Yeah.
And so when I was going through this, I put it out and I was like, man, what are the definitions of these words? What does the Bible say about fear? And it says, the fear of man, this is Proverbs 29:25. The fear of man lays a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is safe. I picked that because it's exactly what we've been talking about this whole time, is man is going to lay the snare. And you fear losing your life, you fear losing your reputation, and you fear losing your desires. You're falling into the snare that the world is putting out there.
Yeah. There's another Bible verse. One of these days, maybe we'll be good enough to actually have it all in our brains. But it says there's a way that seems right to man, but its end is death.
Yes.
Right.
I know it once you say it, but I can't tell you where it's at.
Yeah.
And then the other one I think that most people know is Proverbs 1:7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. So when we talk about the fear of the Lord, and you asked me that before, what does that fear look like? What does that fear look like? Are you just doing it out of fear of not going to heaven? Some of us, yeah. And I told you one of the first conversations we ever had,
you got that ticket.
I got my ticket out of hell. I was good to go. And so, yeah, I was doing it out of fear of going to hell. But when you start building that relationship and you grow, Chris, you go closer to Christ, and you start realizing that fear is not just fear of missing out on heaven and fear of missing or going to hell or fear of missing the love and all that stuff. It's understanding. It's the understanding that you have this fear, the wrath of God scares you so much that you're not going to do it, right? Yeah. But it's not that he's so mean, and he's love. Mm-hmm. And so you should fear losing that love more than you fear losing the desires and the reputation and the life that we have here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you go into I put it into the biblical, and then I put it into man's, Webster's dictionary. So Webster's dictionary of fear is an unpleasant, often strong emotion caused by anticipation or awareness of danger. It's pretty spot on of what fear is, right?
Yeah.
So how do we not fear that stuff? How do we not fall into Webster's dictionary of fear, right? Well, Proverbs 1:7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. But then we go down here, it says, John 14:6, Jesus answered, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Well, that's how we do it. That's how we beat all the snares that the world is trying. It's so easy, right? God says, this is how you do it.
Yeah. I'm the way.
I am.
Right. Instead of the relativistic, which person, what thing.
Exactly.
Right. There's only one. It's Jesus.
I am the way. That's what Jesus says. I am the way. Not your wife, not your kids, not your job, not your life. your physical life. I am the way.
Yeah.
That's how we do it. Well, why? Why do we do it? And this is all on this little spreadsheet. And John, please feel free if you have a way to upload this and people to see it. Feel free. It's if people want to look at it and dissect it, please feel free. Well, why do we do it? Well, Romans 6:8-11 says, the death he died to sin once for all. But the life he lives to God. In the same way, count yourselves dead to sin, but alive to God in Christ Jesus. That's why. Because he decided that he was going to listen to God whenever he was saying, I don't want to do this, God. I don't want to do this. Please take this away. Pass it to somebody else. Figure out something else. He said, no, I'm going to listen to God. I'm going to march my rear end up that hill, carrying my cross, getting beat and spit and slapped and punked and pushed and bruised and battered all along the way. And I'm going to put that cross in the ground. I'm going to hang on it. And I'm still going to say, forgive them.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's why. Has my wife done that for me? Has my kids done that for me? Has the world done that for me? No. God did that for me. That's why.
Yeah. I love the next one you have is classic John 3:16, right? Like, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life.
Yeah. That's my favorite verse in the Bible. And I've had so many people tell me that that's a scapegoat. That's a scapegoat verse. It's so easy to remember, and it's on every shirt and everything. And I'm like, if that's a scapegoat verse, I think I picked the right scapegoat verse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'll take it as a scapegoat because you know what? Jesus is the goat. Know? He's the goat. There's nobody better.
He's the goat. He's the goat shepherd.
Yeah.
Wait, no. He's the sheep. He separates the sheep and the goats.
Yeah.
The sheep go to heaven, the goats go to heaven. Maybe he's not the goat.
Maybe he's not the goat.
No, wait. He was the goat. He died. He went to hell. He conquered hell and rose from the dead.
There you go.
He's the goat.
He's the goat.
He redeemed the goats.
So, yeah, he redeemed the goats. So if he can redeem the goats, yeah. So that's why it's my favorite, because it's so simple. And again, I stopped trying to figure out the God side of Jesus. That's really when I started to understand the true love of God and the true love of Jesus. Because Jesus, do you think God could have put Jesus here at any age?
Yeah.
He could have put him here whenever he wanted to. But he chose to have God born of a human, live as a human. The kids, 7th grade, I told you I taught 7th grade for 6 years. They loved it because I would always say, do you think Jesus took dumps? Do you think Jesus farted?
Yeah, he was a dude.
Do you think he burped? Do you think he sweat? Do you think he bled? Do you think he went behind a tree and peed when he was out in the woods? Yeah, he did, because he was human. Yeah. Well, there's a specific reason why God put Jesus as here a human, because we can understand that. So why don't we dive into, don't get me wrong, there's a place, absolutely 100% a place for the God side of Jesus.
Yeah.
Or he wouldn't be so adamant about he was fully God and fully man.
Yeah.
But we get so wrapped up in trying to be the God side of Jesus.
Yeah.
Whereas we just need to figure out how we can be the man side of Jesus.
Yeah. Got to connect first.
Yeah.
Got to connect.
Because that's what it's about. It's about the relationship. It's about that Jesus chose us. He didn't have to.
Yeah.
He did not have to do what God called him to do. In order for God's plan to be right, he had to. But he didn't have to. He chose to. He decided that I'm going to fear God and love these people enough to go and get beat and slain and stabbed and die. But guess what? I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to love them even more than that. I'm going to choose to live for them. I'm not only going to die for them. I'm going to choose to live for them. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to give them the same opportunity to live where I live with my Father in heaven.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
It's good. It's so good.
Why is it so hard for us?
Yeah, well, we talk about that all the time too. Why is it so hard? Like, why can we not comprehend, even no matter how many times we've heard it, how many times we've seen it, how many times we experienced it? It's like we have the worst short-term memory ever. And it's like we just have to keep coming back to it. But God's good, and He brings us back.
All the time.
Yeah.
What's that movie, 10 Second Bob?
Never seen it.
He's a character, 50 First Dates. It's 50 First Dates, and there's 10 Second Tom or 10 Second Bob or whatever, and it's like, hey, how you doing? And then he turns around and says, hey, how you doing? And
that's funny.
Around, hey, how you doing? Well, that's kind of how we are with Jesus, right? We're like 10 Second Tom with Jesus. Hey, Jesus, how you doing? Oh, you filled my cup.
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm going to take my cup really far away from you, and I'm going to let it get empty, so I have to run way back over there to fill my cup up.
Yeah.
Instead of having you walk with me and man, turn around. Oh, yeah, my cup's full.
Yeah.
You know, why is that so
funny.
hard? It's so hard for us. It's so difficult.
Yeah. Well, man, this has been good.
Yeah.
So I think what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. But you and I have more things to talk about.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
We're probably just going to end this and just sit around and talk for a little bit. So everybody joined us. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. And I guess we want to encourage everyone, think about the things in your life that you fear, and then think about how you can properly order your life to where God's first, and those fears can become second. Give them over to Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Let Him be Lord of the things that you're afraid of.
Yeah.
And just see what He can do in your life.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Well, I'll see you next time. Everybody, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank y'all. See you next time.
All right, bye.
Bye.